But as we approach the end of the financial year and the start of the new one, there's going to be a lot of interest, understandably, in ISAs. ISAs, for those of you who don't know, are tax-free savings accounts. Any money you make from cash held in an ISA or invested in an ISA will be tax-free. So whether that's interest or dividends or growth on stocks and shares, whatever it might be, you get to keep all of that without the taxman taking it away from you. Now, this video is going to focus on cash ISAs. Later on, I will take you through the best paying ones right now for this financial year. I won't be looking at stocks and shares ISAs, but I'm sure you'll be able to find lots of information for those out there if you are interested. Before we get into that though, some very, very key principles I want to go over with you in case you're not quite sure about ISAs, what their purpose is. As I said, they are tax-free, which sounds fantastic. However, as I did go through in a recent video, so check this one out if you haven't seen it already, you may not need that because there is another way to earn tax-free interest on your savings when it's held outside of an ISA, and that's called the personal savings allowance. Now, this for a long time now, since it launched really in 2016, most of us have been absolutely fine with our savings outside of an ISA because low interest rates have meant that it's been taking a lot of cash in order to go past our personal savings allowance. It's £1,000 if you're a basic rate taxpayer, which means you earn less than £50,270 a year. £500 if you're a high rate taxpayer, which at the moment means you earn less than £150,000 a year. From the 6th of April, it means you earn less than £125,000-ish every single year. Sadly, if you're an additional rate taxpayer, so above those ones I just mentioned just now, you don't get one at all. Now, that's not been a problem because savings, you're absolutely fine. However, as I talk about in that other video, as interest rates have increased recently over the last year, and they keep increasing for some accounts, it means the amount of money you need saved in those accounts in order for you to actually get to and go past that allowance is less. Still a lot of money for most people, but it does mean some people will not need to start thinking about what they want to do with their money when interest becomes taxable. So you still get that allowance as long as you're eligible for it. It's the money above that that would be taxed. Now, option one is you keep it in those accounts and you pay tax on those, okay? So that's 20% if you're a basic rate taxpayer, 40% if you're a higher rate taxpayer. So to work out, and when we talk about the rates later on, this is how you're going to want to compare those cash ISA rates with the other savings accounts rates with tax taken off, is basically get your calculator, type in what the interest rate is and minus 20% or minus 40%. And that would give you the equivalent rate. That's how you can compare the two. Right now, where we are, for most people, you might be better off actually putting it into an ISA, as we're saying later on. Again, this is for most people only the money that will be earning interest that takes you above the personal savings allowance, okay? Still going to get higher rates on the whole, not always, but on the whole, in outside of an ISA. And that's because we've seen a lot of increase in rates, which means the percentage you take off is a larger percentage, which means actually generally, but not always, will dip below. But again, I'll let you do the calculations there so you can work out what is best for you. If you do want to know about the best non-ISA rates, I did a video just last week taking you through the best savings accounts for my March update, and I do this every single month. And going forward as well, if you want an update on the ISA accounts, the best ones there, they'd also be included in those monthly updates, as well as over on becleverwithyourcash.com/savings. That is a site we're going to go to very, very shortly where you're going to see the list of the current rates. A couple of quick things also to talk about with ISAs before we get onto the best rates. I just remind you of some of the rules here when it comes to ISAs. Although this is going to focus here on cash ISAs, there are actually 4 types of ISAs for adults. There's the cash ISA, the stocks and shares ISA, the innovative finance ISA, and the lifetime ISA. They're the 4 different types you can get. And you can pay into, in fact, you can have one of those, 2 of those, 3 of those, or all 4 of those in a financial year, which runs April the 6th to April the 5th the following year. One of each, but only maximum one of each. You cannot have 2 cash ISAs that you pay into. You cannot have 2 stocks and shares ISAs that you invest in. You cannot add new money in a financial year. You can keep ones from previous years with money in them, and the money in them will continue to earn, and whatever it makes will continue to be tax-free, but you can't add any money to those if you've also contributed to a new one. Now, that can be a little bit confusing, okay? And I have got another video from a few years ago, but it's still relevant, that takes you through the different types of ISA, so maybe watch that one if you want a bit more information about those. The other restriction you've got is the maximum you can put into any combination of those 4 types of ISAs. Again, it can be 1 type, 2 types, 3 types, 4 types, whatever it is of that mix. The max you can put in as total is £20,000 in a financial year. That is your cap. Now, for a lot of people, that is not going to be a problem, but there will be some of you watching this where that is an issue and you actually think you do want to think about larger amounts of money, you're starting to get over that personal savings allowance. You might want to put as much as you possibly can into ISAs. What you've got to remember here then is where they're going to go, because it's combined. So you can't put 20 into a cash and 20 into a stocks and shares. If you had that amount, it's 20 that is split across them. The subset of this is the lifetime ISA, where there's a maximum of every year of £4,000. That sits within the 20. So that if you put 4 into a lifetime ISA, whether a cash lifetime ISA or a stocks and shares lifetime ISA, that will give you a £16,000 allowance for the other ones. Again, for most people, not going to be an issue. You're not going to be getting that far, but it's definitely one for some people that is going to be really, really, really important. Right. Let's head over to becloveryourcash.com/savings and look at the best rates for March 2023. So first of all, we're going to look at the limited access ISAs, because generally they're going to pay you a little bit more money. A limited access ISA, as the name suggests, means you can't get all your money as much as you want. It's not fully easy access. There will be some restrictions on you accessing the cash. This first one here is a bit different again, because this is actually a fixed rate ISA with some options to access the money. Normally, a fixed rate account, you can't access the cash without penalty. But this one actually lets you do it. This is from Barclays Bank. They will pay you 4% fixed for a year. Again, so that won't go up, it won't go down, but it's a decent rate there. Again, a lot better than most of the others you're going to see. And you can access the money here 3 times a year. You can take out 10% of the balance each time. So roughly, you could get a third of the money out if you wanted to in a year. It's a flexible one, which means you can put the money back into if you want to, without worrying about it eating into your £20,000 allowance. Okay, so that might be useful for you if you can take cash out and want to put it back in, but also add to it over the year. Appreciate we're getting towards the end year. Now it's going to be not so important this year, but if you want to keep paying into it next year, if you can put money in, there will be limits for a fix how much you can put into it. Then that might be one to consider. Also paying 4%, but again, not many of you are going to be able to get this, is a loyalty ISA, 6 access ISA from Yorkshire Building Society. This pays 4% on the first £20,000 saved, 3.5% on money above that. That's relevant if you are transferring in money from another ISA. Another really important thing to talk about here, when you are moving money between ISAs, you transfer it across. From the new ISA you open, you get them to go contact the old bank or Building Society and move it over. Never take the money out and put it back in, because that will use up your ISA allowance for that year. Even if you've got a flexible one, that can be a problem. But anyway, if you have got a Yorkshire Building Society account of some form, a current account, a savings account, whatever it might be, for more than 12 months, you can open up this 6 access saver and earn those higher rates. The limit here is only 6 withdrawals a year. Below that, we do have quite a big drop down in rates, but still better than most of the easy access ones, which we'll come on to in a second. These are Paragon Bank at 3.1%, Yorkshire Building Society at 3%, and Coventry Building Society at 3%. Again, they all have different restrictions, 3 withdrawals, 1 withdrawal, and 6 withdrawals, respectively. Again, so these accounts, they're only if you think you can put that money aside, you don't need to access it that often, or it really is an emergency fund. You're only going to go to it if there is an emergency. Next up, let's look at full easy access ones. These are the ones with no real restrictions. You can take the cash out as much as you want, whenever you want. Just bear in mind that what I said about flexible accounts, ISAs there, if you take the money out and you want to put it back in, if it's not flexible, it will eat into that year's allowance, that £20,000 allowance, okay? If that is going to be something important to you, then you might want to make sure it's a flexible account. Now, the top one here is a very different one. And so we'll cover this first, and I'll go on to the more normal, easy access cash ISAs. This is from Moneybox. And I told you this video is about cash ISAs. And you'll see there it says stocks and shares ISA. So what's that all about? Well, this stocks and shares ISA from Moneybox, if you open one up and you do not invest any of your money that you put into it, you hold it there as cash, you will earn 3.25%, which is top of the table for an easy access ISA. Okay? 3.25%. If you invest any of that money or any additional money in the Moneybox stocks and shares ISA, you get a monthly fee that comes in, other charges that come in. So it's not going to be, although you'll still earn 3.25% on any cash that's held there, it's probably not going to be your best bet. Do your sums, and you may well find, again, I'm not going to take you through the best stocks and shares ISA, you probably find there are better options out there. But this is another complication that comes in with this account here. If you do choose to open this stocks and shares ISA for your cash savings, it does mean you can't open up an additional stocks and shares ISA for investments elsewhere. Okay, So if you are going to invest in an ISA, and as I talk about in a recent video, that might be a good idea with changes coming to the dividend and the capital gains tax allowances, tax-free allowances, then you might want to sort of forego this cash option and focus on the best investment stocks and shares ISA elsewhere, because you cannot pay into two of the same type in a year. Remember that, okay? Another thing to bear in mind here, any money you do have in this money box, stocks and shares ISA, they don't hold it themselves. They put it into different banks. So that money that is in the different banks, it will be financial services compensation protected. Although money box itself isn't, the money will be protected, but at that other bank. So if money box was to go under, you'd get it back from that other bank. So it's safe from that sense, but you may find that the money they put it in, it's a number of different banks they do this with. If you have other savings in there, just be careful that your total savings across the money from the money box, stocks and shares ISA as cash, and whatever the other cash savings account is, if it's the same bank, that's not above £85,000. If you want to keep things a little bit easier, a bit more simple, you just want a normal cash ISA, then the top paying one is 3.05%. So a big drop down, and that is from Synergy Bank. Gatehouse, 3.05%. Again, that's expected profit rate. It's Sharia account. Then down to Shawbrook, 3.01%. Virgin Money, as long as you have a current account with Virgin Money, will give you 3%. And Sainsbury's Bank, 2.91%. So again, these are lower rates. If you have seen my recent video about the best easy access accounts elsewhere, you'll know there are lots at 3%, some at 3.2%, even one at 3.4%. You've got to figure out, oh, well, do I pay tax? As I said, work it out, do the maths. 3.4% versus 3%. What's best one for me? Versus 2.9%, whatever it might be. Actually, if you, even a basic rate taxpayer, taking 20% off 3.4% would mean it's lower rate overall than these. So in this situation right now, you'd probably be better off if you are going to earn more than £1,000 in interest on one of the other easy access accounts, then you might want to put additional savings into one of these higher paying ISAs right now. Again, these things can change, worth keeping an eye on it, but right now that might be the best bet. Let's also have a look at fixed ISAs. I can look at 1 year and 2 year fixes. Now, unlike fixes that are with outside of an ISA, you actually can get your money from a fixed ISA, which is pretty rare, pretty unusual. Okay, normally in other accounts, the money's locked away for a year. That's it. You do a tough luck, and if they do let you get it, you forfeit all the interest. With these ones, you can get your money out of a cash ISA, but you will pay some kind of penalty, but it's not necessarily a massive penalty. For 1 year fix, generally it's 90 days. I have seen some around 180 days. Obviously, check the account you're looking at. 2 year fixes, it might be slightly longer. Again, depends by provider. It does vary. But this might mean, particularly if you're looking now, you've already got money that you fixed, I don't know, 3, 6, 9 months ago at a lower rate. It might be worth going, do you know what? I'm going to take that out. I'm going to transfer it again. Remember, don't withdraw. Transfer it, really important, to one of these higher paying fixes. Even though I'll pay whatever the penalty is, 90, 120, how many days, work this out what it would be, because the amount you'd earn by putting it in this other account for a longer period could really, really be quite dramatic, particularly if you had a longer fix than a year. So it's definitely worth having a look at that if you've got them, but also if you are new, you've got a new lump of sum you want to put away or transfer from an easy access cash ISA. Top one here, Virgin Money, 4.25%. That's a really strong account there. Interesting thing here is it's due to close at the end of March 2023. Now, it may well be they open up a new one in April with a similar rate. Hard to say. But if you are worried about missing out on this one, someone in the Facebook community was talking about they've already used up their ISA allocation for this year. Obviously, you could transfer it across potentially, or you actually got 30 days to fund this account from when they account closed the new applications. So you could always open it up now in March and still pay into it in April in the new financial year if you want to at that higher rate, locked for a year. Drop down here to Shawbrook to 4.06%, then Close Brothers and Virgin Money at 3.95%, Gatehouse, again, same rate, 3.95%, UBL 3.91%, and Castle Trust 3.9%. So again, worth having a look how that compares to fixes outside, but bear in mind with a fix, if it's all paid in one go rather than monthly at the end, particularly for longer ones, then you'll be due all of that tax, all that interest in one go will be due the tax. So fixes can be a good option for ISAs. If you know you're not going to access it and you've got that allocation, it's worth giving it a go. And let's also quickly look at 2 year fixes as well. Shawbrook 4.16, Close Brothers 4.15, Paragon 4.15 as well. Then Virgin Money 4.11, Gatehouse 4.1, and Coventry Building Society, if you want a more ethical option for your savings, 4%. They are the bulk of your ISAs there. I will quickly share with you just the best rates here on lifetime ISAs as well. I will do a new video on these probably in the new year, looking at the new financial year, I should say, looking at them again. But if you are looking to put your money in a lifetime ISA, again, there are a number of restrictions. A whole video I did from a couple of years ago. Check that one out. Still all relevant, just the rates will be different. So you'll be aware of what the restrictions are for lifetime ISAs. But Moneybox, 3.5%. That does drop after a year to 2.75%. Bath Beyond Society, relatively new here, 3.19%. Nude pays 3%, but there was a £2 monthly fee. So broadly speaking, you're better off either with an account above this or even some of the ones below that. But do the maths, have a look at that, see how you fancy it. Beehive Money, 2.75%. Paragon, 2.5%. Newcastle Building Society, 2.5%. And Skipton Building Society, 2.25%. Hope that was useful for you. As ever, remember, updates every single month here on the best savings accounts and daily updates at becleverwithyourcash.com/savings. My name is Andy Webb. Thank you so much for watching. Check out these videos here for more ISA tips.